We've brought you a range of insights into food production in Africa. But now it's time to hear from you. Our digital team collected your comments and feedback. Here's Daniel Plafka with Africa Response.
Over the past 5 days, we've heard from Africa's food producers, smallholder farmers in 9 countries, and from leading experts on the challenges and opportunities facing Africa when it comes to food production. But we also wanted to hear from our audiences. CGTN Africa's digital team conducted a week-long survey of opinions and attitudes on everything agriculture, from irrigation, farming practices and technologies, to infrastructure and more. So let's dive right into those results. When it comes to whether farmers are getting the support they need, the news from the ground is not very promising. Nearly 75% of our viewers say farmers in their country don't have access to sufficient training or education to improve their craft. Meanwhile, 2/3 of respondents say infrastructure development decisions are often made without taking food production into account. Afriye Odankwa from Ghana says the food-growing regions in his country lack sufficient roadworks, which can present major challenges when it comes to bringing crops to market. When it comes to young people's participation in agriculture, a generational shift seems to be at play. A whopping 75% of survey respondents told us they're seeing more and more young people turn back to the land. It's a trend that's being fueled by high rates of youth unemployment throughout the continent, and one that's being bolstered by the quickening pace of technological innovation in the agricultural sphere. John Abimiku in Nigeria says most African youth are discouraged from farming because of its association with hard labor. He says African leaders must invest in mechanized farming if the continent is to attain food sufficiency. With more and more of the arable land in the African countries shifting from food crops to cash crops aimed at the export market, nearly 40% of respondents said their governments weren't doing enough to support domestic producers of food. Kevin Marcus in Kenya says African governments ought to create favorable conditions for local farmers to compete in international markets, including subsidies on inputs like fertilizers and seedlings. And while some were concerned that food should not be sent abroad while domestic shortages still exist at home, others disagreed. Here's John in Nigeria again. The problem with food shortages in Africa, he writes, is not because of food exports to other continents, but due to climate change and old farming methods. Agriculture is Africa's major source of foreign exchange, and cutting our exports in agriculture can only plunge us into more hunger and abject poverty. The questions facing the continent's food challenges are numerous as they are important, and, as we found through our survey, they're often contentious as well. But what's certain is that the future of Africa's food system won't just be decided on farms or in parliaments, but in the minds and social media feeds of the continent's youth.
And on that note, we wrap up our series on food production in Africa. We hope you've been enlightened on how Africa produces food and how the continent can boost its food security and expand exports. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.